Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first webinar of the FAAA students webinar series. So we're going to be talking about and covering off the the financial advisor professional year. Today's webinar is about navigating the financial advisor professional year and specifically covering off quarters 1 and 2 of the professional year. So I guess those introductory quarters that really get you set in to becoming an advisor, to learning, the ins and outs of pretty much everything that an advisor does without that, direct kind of client involvement as of yet. My name's Matthew Kanizay. I'm currently a chair of the FAAA Emerging Professionals Committee. I also sit on the FAAA Gen Next Committee as a committee member. And I've been involved with the FPA/FAAA for a few years now. So I won the 2022 University Student of the Year Award. I'm currently working as a client services manager for a company called Pursue Wealth, based in Melbourne. So we do a lot of financial advice, and on a holistic basis for wealth accumulators or younger members. So I guess specializing in members between the ages of 25 and 45 to help them, get ahead in life and maximize both their lifestyle and financial potential. Oops. Sorry. There we go. Today with me, I am joined by Leah Dew and Jennifer Lang. Welcome to both of you, and thanks so much for being able to join us today and have some insight into the professional year experience. Leah, do you mind giving us a bit of a background of yourself?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Matt. So I'm currently studying a Bachelor of Commerce with a double major in Finance and Financial Planning at Curtin University in Western Australia. I also work as a Client Services Officer at Visio Financial Services. Additionally, I'm a committee member of the FAAA Emerging Professionals Committee and the Next Gen Committee here in Perth. I'm also a panel member for the Curtin's SAEF Financial Planning Advisory Panel, and I'm a student representative at the university.
Fantastic, thank you. And Jennifer, do you mind giving us a bit of background upon yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. I'm a professional year in my third quarter. I work for Modern New Financial Planners, and we're in Albury. I started working in January 23. I was also a Rising Star finalist in 2023. And yeah.
Great, thank you. And congratulations as well on being named as a finalist for the Rising Star of the Year for the inaugural FAAA Awards last year, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Fantastic achievement. All right. So first things first, we're going to cover off the requirements and the overview of the Financial Advisor Professional Year, or PY, as many of you know it as. Whether you're currently doing your PY, whether you're still in university and about to go into PY, I think the quarters 1 and 2 are a great place to start. And, we do see a bit of overlap as well amongst kind of those client services roles and the first couple of quarters of your PY as well. Pretty much. So the structure of your professional year. So one of the biggest things is to begin the professional year, you need to create a PY plan with your licensee and supervisor. You'll need an authorized supervisor and an authorized licensee as well. So it's really important to kind of, have the right team behind you, because it's not a great feeling, not that I've been in this experience, but, when you start your professional year and, I know some people who've kind of, not really vibed, not had the right, the right person to support them through that. So it is fairly time consuming and it is a big commitment for both yourself and your employer. So it's good to have the right team behind you. You'll need to log 1,600 hours over the course of your professional year. So with 100 hours being dedicated to formal education or training. And this is often in-person client experience, or not in person, but one-on-one client experience as well. So the professional year is divided into 4 quarters, with the first quarter being client observations and shadowing. So you'll be shadowing your supervisor, your supervisor, and monitoring, I guess, what they do, taking some notes and effectively using that as learned training for how to go through the PY. Quarter 2 is supervised client engagement and advice preparation. So this is where you will start to get a little bit more hands-on with interacting with clients, being present in client meetings, and involved with preparing advice as well. So whether it's working with the advisor to draft strategies, sitting in meetings and taking file notes and passing that on, and working very closely with the advisor in that sense. It's important to note as well that, whilst it is called the professional year, it's not going to take one, year or 12 months for everyone. Everyone's professional year experience is different, and it's really important to note this. So I think one big thing is, don't put any pressure on yourself when you are completing it. It's obviously healthy to have, some pressure, but it's not the be all and end all at the same time. So you don't want to rush it, and you really do want to feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, there's no point, finishing up Q3 and 4 or going into Q3 and 4 without really feeling comfortable about how you've done in Q1 and 2 as well. In terms of, I guess, it's important to celebrate those little wins and PY milestones as well for each quarter. So whether it's, a bit of a celebration after quarter 1, quarter 2, passing the exam before commencing Q3, and then when you finish at Q4 as well, it's important to have those little win moments and, hype yourself up a little bit too, because, as I did mention, it is a bit of a commitment as well. The licensee will provide, or it's quite common for the licensee to provide structured training around CPD, compliance, ethics qualifications as well. So one big thing that you can do is register with CPD webinars. There's a lot of compliance webinars that product providers run, the FAAA run too, and a lot of these are free of cost. So it's important to get your CPD hours up, right from the beginning, and continue on from there. In terms of, I guess, so moving on to quarter 3 and 4, which we're not going to cover off today, but that's where we look at the indirect supervision of client engagement. So that's where you'll start to take on quite a bit more responsibility around the amount of clients that you independently manage and deal with and provide advice to as well. You'll still have your authorized, supervising advisor there as well to sign off on everything. But it is where you start to take that more independent leap in dealing with client situations too. There's quite a few key competencies when you are completing the PY, and these include technical competence, client care and practice, regulatory compliance, and professionalism and ethics. A lot of these will be covered off already, or, as a bit of a tester of the waters in your FAAA approved degree, or any bridging courses that you may have done as well. And I guess looking forward as well for the 2024 exam schedule as well. So we do have a financial advisor professional year exam coming up on the 8th of August, so in a couple of weeks. And the enrolments for these have closed at the moment, but the next enrolments for the November sitting of the exam, which is set to be held on Thursday, the 7th of November. And these enrolments open on the 30th of September and close on the 18th of October. So if you are preparing to do your PY exam later this year, it's really important to book in, make sure that you're booked in on time as well. And there's a lot of great resources out there as well when studying for your PY too. Leah, I've just got a question for you. You're working in a client services role at the moment, and I know that you're planning to start your professional year later this year. What types of overlap do you see between a client services role and, I guess, looking forward to Q1 and Q2 of the professional year?
Yeah, so well, the obviously Q1 is client observations and shadowing, and I think working a client services role, you get to see the clients from day one, and you get to learn their story and see the process, including like the strategies and how they progress through their advice and all that sort of stuff. You kind of see the background to how it all works, which I think is a very important base.
That's great. Thank you. And yeah, I think that's one of the big stepping stones as well is, you don't really, as much as a lot of people want to get straight out of uni and, head into an advice company, becoming an advisor and starting their PY. I think it's really important to note that it's important to have that client services experience, or support staff experience as well, straight before, heading into your professional year. Uh, Oh, yes. I know Joel's just commented as well. So we do have our second webinar on all the financial advice exam, which is going to be held on the 1st of August. So next week, which would be good too. Right, I'll just move on to the slide. So looking at preparing for the professional year, as I mentioned before, the professional year, it's not the same experience for everyone. There's no right or wrong way to go about it, but here's just some tips that we've got so that you can, pretty much smoothly sail through your professional year. The first one that we just wanted to cover off is employer expectations. So understanding your employer's expectations is key to successfully navigating the professional year. As I mentioned before, it's important that you have, the right team to back you up as well. If you don't gel with someone, it might be appropriate to look for another PY supervisor. And yeah, also following up on that. So to clarify the roles, responsibilities, and objectives for a smoother experience. So create your professional year plan with your licensee and supervisor, whether it's sitting them down, whether it's having a chat about, whether they have put anyone else through their professional year in the past. A lot of employers as well are open to suggestions of how to run a professional year from your perspective as well. The professional year is, whilst it's a few years old now, but it's still fairly new. And there's a lot of licensees and employers who are always looking to kind of level up and, see how they can do things better as well. I think the advice world is always changing, and it's really important that you have someone who's adaptable to those situations as well. In terms of preparing for the professional year as well, there's PY support groups, which are a fantastic opportunity to get involved and surround yourself with like-minded people who are completing the PY. So these can offer valuable connections with your peers, whether it's at a university level, FAAA groups. A lot of licensees will have professional year groups as well, or kind of little committees that you can become a part of and reach out to people if you do need support throughout your PY. And so the PY, it's not dissimilar to an apprenticeship. So there's a big focus on learning and personal growth. And I think it's probably one of the biggest things that, Q1 and Q2 really prepare you for before moving into the last 2 quarters of it as well, is just really building up those interpersonal skills for yourself and setting values of, how would you like to deal with clients, and, what are some strengths and weaknesses that you can identify about yourself when dealing with clients, and strategies and managing expectations as well. Because, at the end of the day, the life of advisors, we're often dealing with, different people, different clients, different strategies, whether it's high level or more lower level strategies. There's always a lot going on. So if you can, have a bit of an expectation for yourself and allow yourself to, have that time management, those strategies in place as well, it can be really beneficial. And also looking at, I guess, your long-term, both short-term, medium-term and long-term goals and career expectations as well. Previously, someone might have gone into an advice firm worked in their graduate program for 3 years or whatever and come out and just worked as an advisor at a bank or whatever. The landscape of advice is changing, I think, and people are, increasingly changing jobs and finding new ways to deliver advice as well. So yes, it can be challenging sometimes to find a professional year role in the first place, but I think, when you do and when you're on the hunt for one, it's important to make sure that your values are the same as well. Also have those goals in mind. So for yourself, whether it's kind of short-term goals. So, right, I'm going to, smash this quarter out, have some expectations around that. Medium-term goals, such as I'd ideally like to finish my professional year in 16 months, 18 months, whatever it may be. And then long-term goals as well. So I guess throughout your professional year, you really, because you deal with so many clients and you're in those learning stages as well, you can develop a bit of a sense of what types of clients and advice you'd like to deal with in the future as well. So I know for myself, my previous practice where I started out, I was dealing more with pre-retirees and high net wealth clients. And, that was a great place to start out, but I found myself almost, like I'm 23 at the moment. So I find it a lot easier with my current role to build those relationships and build rapport with, members of a younger age and younger demographic as well. But yeah, I think some other key tips as well, just to cover off, go and network with other students and go to professional events, and also get a job while you're studying as well. So yeah, as I mentioned before, you might not be able to just jump into your PY straight out of uni. So, if there's some client services roles going around, which I'm sure there are, apply for them. Yeah, support staff roles such as power planning. And I think I've kind of often thought this before, but even, simply working in a retail job or hospitality job where you are dealing with different people on a daily basis, you really do get to, build up your interpersonal skills, which translates a lot over into the advice profession as well, where you are dealing with different people, and just kind of incorporating those more technical strategies into it as well. Just had a question from Rebecca Hadland. Just grab that up quickly. Yeah, Rebecca, did you want to ask a question?
No, sorry.
Oh, all good. Sorry about that. And we just had another question as well. So from Abhishek. So Abhishek, I'm in the final stages of completing the graduate diploma in financial planning from Kaplan. Would like to know if there is any support available with the FAAA to connect with the prospective employers for the professional year program. So the FAAA, yeah, exactly. Thank you, Nelifar, for posting that up. But the FAAA has a careers website or careers page, which is available through the member portal and website as well. This will have a range of opportunities, whether they are kind of support staff, so client services related, PY related, or moving into becoming an advisor as well related. So there's, some different and great resources on the FAAA careers page there too. All right. So before we move into this, I just wanted to mention as well that each time you finish a quarter of your professional year, you will need a completion certificate by the licensee. And you can't move on to the next quarter without having this completion certificate too. So a lot of licensees will have completion certificates that they've prepared using their own template, but on the FAAA PY tool that has recently been released, there is also a template for a completion certificate too. So if you're not too sure, what to write, how to structure it, or kind of how to say to your licensee, oh, I think, I might be missing this. There's one up there that you can utilize too. Jennifer, just quickly as well, Jennifer, what was your experience like, I guess, moving from, sorry, my computer. Yeah, Jennifer, just quickly as well, what was your experience like moving from, I guess, working in what was your experience like working under the PY under Q1 and 2 and then moving to Q3 and 4? What were the biggest challenges and differences for you?
The training wheels broke.
Okay.
Yeah, it just I kind of felt a bit like we were pushed out of a plane. And just learning to back myself.
Hmm.
You know, you have those questions, and at some point, you just got to back yourself and go for it. And yeah, just be willing to, if it's a mistake, you fix it. If it's not, you give yourself a high five and move on to the next challenge. And yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good way to put it and good approach to it as well. Yeah, take the training wheels off.
Oh, they weren't taken off. They were broken.
Oh, they were broken, right? Forcibly snapped off, gone. All right, now we're going to cover off Q1 of the professional year in a little bit more detail. So looking at the competencies and goals. So the key competencies of Q1 is that it does focus on client observations, post-meeting documentation, advising strategies, and administrative activities. And these activities are all essential for developing those fundamental skills in financial advising or, becoming a financial advisor. A lot of these will be, sitting as a bit of a third party in meetings, taking file notes, although I know AI does do a lot of file note taking these days. But even just that experience to get your head around, what's a good file note, how to structure it properly, different advice strategies to put in place. So whether it is an investment strategy, a super strategy or a transition to retirement, whatever it may be, kind of having a look at whether their insurance needs are appropriate for their situations. So, they've got a mortgage, they've got a couple of kids, don't have any insurance. Having a bit of just a bit of a think about and a bit of a chat with your supervising advisor as well after the meeting about what types of strategies could be implemented, and recommended for these clients. So I guess the goal for Q1, the main goal is to actively participate in shadowing your supervisor, engaging with clients and contributing to the advisory process. So yeah, as I said, kind of whether it are these initial meetings with clients, sitting in the SOA presentations or advice presentations, and then helping, I guess, with the implementation of advice as well. So just to ensure that you kind of have that knowledge about what goes on within the holistic entirety of the advice process. I think a lot of the time, people kind of, not a lot of the time, but I have seen instances where they're completely across, the SOA stage as it is, but then when it comes to, I guess, the implementation of the advice, they're not as comfortable with it. So I think it's really, really important to get your head across all aspects of the process too. I guess so. By achieving these goals as well, you do lay a strong foundation for the subsequent quarters and set yourself off on the right foot as well. And lean into being the apprentice and being curious as well. So the saying goes, curiosity didn't kill the cat. But yeah, don't be afraid for asking for constructive feedback, because I think I can definitely say, from my experience, it's your employer. Yeah, it says a lot about you when you kind of go to your employer, you ask a question, you can ask if there's anything I can do better. You kind of just don't go with the status quo. If that makes sense. And also engage in discussions with your supervisor or licensee as well, to comprehend suitable advice strategies that are aligned with client objectives. So as mentioned before, having a look around like an insurance needs analysis, if it's a kind of pre-retiree client, they're looking at reducing their working hours but wanting to keep working, we can utilize a transition to retirement strategy. If they're, on a high income, for example, having those more high level discussions around trust structures and tax minimization and how to handle your investments and structure them in a tax optimal manner. And practical experience in advising is really crucial for, refining those client communication skills as well. So I think that's where those support staff and client services roles do come up, and are very important in actually allowing yourself to have those interpersonal skills where you can grow and effectively communicate with clients as well. And as mentioned before as well, but here your supervisor is really crucial to your development. Whether this is through your technical development, your personal development, growth of soft skills as well. It's important that you get along with them. You don't it's okay to butt heads sometimes, but you're not butting heads too often as well. Next, we'll move on to quarter two. So competencies and goals. So the key competencies of quarter two, it's kind of leveling up in some ways. So it's continuing on from what you've learned in quarter one, but not quite to the point where you are ready to take on those independent client meetings in Q3 and 4. So quarter two requires the preparation for client meetings, undertaking meeting interactions with clients under supervision, drafting advice documents, and handling administrative tasks. And this phase or stage really acts to refine your client engagement skills and how to effectively communicate and deal with clients as well. Clients aren't going to be happy all of the time. They might come to you with some tricky questions, and during this quarter, understand how to communicate effectively, how to handle disputes and resolve disputes if they do come up as well. And particularly, I think a good one, really good aspect of quarter two is allowing yourself time to prepare for client meetings before they actually happen. So you've got to the stage where, you've passed quarter one where you have sat in on meetings and, taken some notes and understood how the advisor communicates with the client. Quarter two really acts as a purpose for you to take that, next step and be proactive around client meetings and dealing with clients as well. Every client interaction is different at the end of the day. Everyone's different as a person. Everyone's going to have different expectations. So it's really important that you are able to, set out some expectations for them and achieve them as well. And so I guess the primary goal for quarter two is to build competencies in independently preparing for client meetings, handling parts of interactions, and delivering draft advice materials. So whether this is being a part of the advice creation process, putting together a formal advice document such as a statement of advice, developing those strategy papers or documents that go then to the paraplanner, for example, to write the SOA. Client-facing interactions. So enhancing your ability to provide tailored advice, not just talking to someone over the phone. It's about how you communicate with them. How do you build that rapport and relationship, which hopefully can be long-lasting as well. Preparing thoroughly as well for client meetings to ensure effective communication and understanding of client needs. So, having all the forms ready if they're coming in person, setting out some expectations if you are sending documents to them via DocuSign about, when they're going to come, having those follow-up emails, those emails to say, how are you going? Great to see you today. Just wanted to touch base around this. You can expect to receive these, binding death benefit nominations in the post, for example. But just really refining that advice experience for when you start to take on your own clients independently as well. So in each quarter, you will be expected to complete and maintain your logbook for the quarter. Logbooks, they can be quite tricky. They can be quite time consuming. Some of my colleagues have some good tips in that they'll set aside, the last 10 or 15 minutes of each day or each week to update their logbook and what they've done, plug that in. Logbooks, there's quite a few different logbook resources. Some licensees will have one that you must complete with them. Otherwise, I know like the FAAA has recently released a logbook through the professional year tool, which is a great way to keep track of your hours because, you know, there are the 1,600 hours that you need to complete, but as part of that, there's, you know, a certain amount that you need to complete in each quarter. So over, you know, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. And particularly it does come up when, you know, it's really quite important when you do move on to that 100 hours of structured training and client interactions and involvements as well. And also for keeping record of your CPD hours too. So you're also expected to satisfactorily complete all work activities and structured training set out in the professional year plan for the relevant quarter. This may be set out, you know, by the licensee, by the advisor, by the, I guess the professional year plan that's put together for you. And then also just a reminder as well that, yeah, you do need that certificate of completion when you do complete each quarter as well before moving on to the next one too. When you do finish, I guess once you've passed the exam, so after completing quarter 1 and 2, and then before completing quarter 3 and 4, that's when you become registered on the FAAA or the Financial Advice Register as a provisional advisor. And I guess throughout this process as well, that's, yeah, when you will need to provide, or your licensee or the advisor will need to provide a PY notification effectively to clients that you are dealing with, just letting them know as well that you are still in your professional year, you are completing structured training. Sorry. There we go. Yeah, and then so yeah, for quarter 3 and 4, you've satisfactorily identified and resolved ethical dilemmas as required by subsection 10/3 of the Corporation's Work and Training Professional Year Standard Determination 2018. And then for quarter 4 as well. So when you do start to, you know, run those client meetings by yourself and put together those strategies independently as well, you'll have to achieve the outcomes and acquire the key competencies as set out in section 6 of the standard 2. And at least so at least 1,500 activity hours must be tracked in your logbook, and at least 100 structured training hours must have been completed as well over the professional year. So I guess, yeah, as mentioned before, today's webinar has covered off quarters 1 and 2 of the professional year. There are 2 webinars coming up as well. So there's webinar 2 around the financial advisor exam preparation. And this is going to be held next Thursday, the 1st of August at 12 p.m, which will provide some great tips, tools and resources for people who are sitting the advisory exam on the 8th of August, or if you are looking to complete the exam later in November this year as well. And then webinar 3 as well. So this is going to be held on Thursday, the 15th of August, and this is live after the financial advisor exam. So continuing on from what we've spoken about today, but moving more into Q3 and Q4. Yeah, so there's a link there, QR code, but we'd love to see you there as well if you'd like to register. And these will also be put onto our social media pages too. So just a reminder as well that the FAAA has done a lot of work and recently released the professional year tool. This can be accessed via the member portal and provides quite a lot of resources around, I guess, yeah, what is the professional year as a whole, the quarterly framework around the PY, putting together a PY year plan, a bit of a framework around kind of, yeah, elaborating more on Q1, Q2, Q3 and Q4. There's also a frequently asked questions page on there because, you know, let's be real, a lot of people still do have a lot of questions around the PY. There is a logbook template as well. And yeah, we really encourage you to visit that page as well. Whether you are currently completing your professional year or thinking about it, there's a great amount of resources on there too. So for all inquiries related to the professional year, please contact the FAAA at py@fAAA.au. And if you are a student as well or have any student inquiries, please email students@fAAA.au as well. All right, so the next thing we're going to cover off, is a bit of a Q&A with panelists. So Jennifer and Leah, thanks so much again for joining us. I feel like I've done a lot of talking. Now time to let you two do the talking. Jennifer, a bit of a question for you first. How did you first get your job in the financial advice profession?
I gelled really well with one of my university lecturers, one Daniel Jackson, who is now my PY supervisor. So I basically hit him up for a job when I got my marks back.
That's
Pretty much.
fantastic. Yeah. And so so he was he teaching at your university? Was that how you kind of met him?
Yeah, he lectures and teaches financial plan construction.
Okay, great.
They call it Top Gun.
It's probably quite helpful then when you've got someone who is, comes from that teaching environment already, to act as your PY supervisor, because I'm assuming that, he would be quite good with students and breaking down those more technical concepts as well.
Yeah, it was a really good experience. Like, you got 12 weeks to get to know how someone teaches, and they get to know how you need to be taught, and just that time to, like, it was a 12-week job interview essentially, like just seeing what worked, what didn't, and how we worked together. And yeah, it was a good experience.
That's great. And Leah, how about you? How did you first get your job in the financial advice profession?
So I guess mine was similar. So through university, in one of my units, it was I was talking to my tutor about one of my assignments, and he suggested that I try to network with guest lecturers when I come in and link with them on LinkedIn, etc. So I spoke to a lot of the guest lecturers, and Cora, who I work for now, she was a guest lecturer, and I spoke to her just about how to get into the industry. And then, soon after she asked to meet with me, and ended up offering me a job through that.
That's great. Fairly two similar stories, but I guess it does show that, if you are kind of committed and dedicated to university and your studies as well, there are quite a few opportunities that can come out of that, particularly with the advice profession being, so small as well, and not many universities offering it. I think there's always a lot of opportunities and definitely pays to reach out as well. Jennifer, did you go straight into your PY from graduating university?
I started before I graduated. So I started in January. In March, I started my PY. That lined up with my final semester of uni. And I got my final mark in June before and then I sat the first exam I could after that, which was November.
Yeah.
So
No,
sort of went straight into a PY. It was in the discussions as to how it was going to happen, but didn't step directly into it. Although I guess I did sort of out of university, but yeah, it was a process.
yeah. And I guess, probably helped having that previous connection with Daniel as well.
Yeah.
Jennifer, how did you go about talking to your employer about starting a professional year? Had he previously put anyone else through a professional year?
No. I was the guinea pig, but we basically reused or rejigged the university model in teaching to do the PY, particularly those first 6 months. It's a very similar sort of style and process. So Sorry, what was the question?
Um, sorry, how did you go about talking to your employer about starting the professional year?
Just had a conversation.
Yeah. And
We have what we call butterfly conversations where it could be slightly awkward,
Mhm.
and you just sort of say, yeah, you just start the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. And do you know if there's any more any plans for the company for, Modern New Financial Planners to put anyone else through their PY?
Most likely.
Mhm. That's good.
I'm due
That's
to
right.
finish in the next couple of months. Yeah, we had discussions before we started as to what the plan was regarding, the future, because some people make assumptions when they start. There may be a job at the end as a financial advisor for them. And that's obviously a butterfly conversation, an awkward conversation you've got to have as to what's the future. We had those conversations, but life also changes. So as far as I know, there are plans to grow the business and continue and put on another associate once I'm through.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
That's exciting.
It is.
Good to see that you've been the guinea pig and come out of it thriving by the sounds of it.
This guinea pig survived.
Leah, if I can ask as well, have you approached your current employer about doing your PY with them? I know that you are planning to do your professional year later this year, but have you had that conversation yet? You know, whether it is a bit of a butterfly conversation, as Jennifer put it.
Yeah, that this is one of the reasons I chose my current employer over other options was because I sort of had that discussion from day one and just said that I wanted to start as early as possible and have the support to progress, I guess in a more timely matter. And yeah, my boss was really good with that, and she sort of left it up to me in a way to kickstart it. So once I found out that you could start your PY while still studying, that's when I sort of had another discussion with her and just said that I wanted to start soon. I was potentially going to start, well, after I finished the previous semester at uni, but I've just delayed it slightly till the end of the year just with some personal stuff going on, but it will still give me plenty of time to complete those first 2 quarters before finishing my degree.
Mhm. It's fantastic. And I guess, with Leah and Jennifer, with both your experiences, has there been some overlap between your approved degree and Q1 and Q2 of the professional year?
Sorry, what was that? Has there been some overlap between uni and
Yeah,
professional year?
was there overlap, I guess, in terms of Q1 and Q2, and then the end of your university for the
Not in my experience, like directly uni and work without taking in the 3 months of CSO that I did in between. No,
Okay.
because uni prepared me to write a statement of advice.
Yeah.
PY prepared me to write file notes and talk to clients.
Mhm.
Yeah, there is a gap there. I've actually been going back to uni to tell students what to expect going into PY.
Yeah.
Which has been really interesting because, yeah, there is a gap there.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing as well what are some of those tips?
Oh, it's been a while.
Sorry, to put you on the spot.
That's okay. A lot of it has been around having conversations, open conversations, and just basically answering the questions they have about this big black hole called the PY that no one really has much information on. and what to expect in regards to, some people have an expectation they're going to walk out of uni and into a six-figure salary while being a PY, and that's not quite practical because, as you point out, we're apprentices. Someone's got to pay us to learn, and there's a lot of time wastage there. And but there's so many people to get to know as well. Like there's a whole crew in your licensee that you got to learn who does what and make the appropriate connections and figure out who you got to talk to for what, and yeah, things like that. It's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. I think that's you put it perfectly in the sense that there is this bit of a black hole around the PY, and that's kind of what we're trying to do is demystify the PY a little bit. But I definitely agree with you in the sense that, university at the moment, it does teach you to write a statement of advice. It teaches you all those technical skills, but there's not a lot to do around those, the
Soft
soft,
skills.
yeah, and those people skills, which ultimately probably are one of the biggest aspects of becoming an advisor. And yeah, building those really great relationships with your clients as well. Jennifer, when you are, I mean, you still are you are completing your PY at the moment, but have you found any great resources, or do you have any tips or tools that you'd like to share?
Ensemble.
Okay.
Ensemble was amazing during quarter 1 and quarter 2. Like just sorry, it's not FAAA, but they have these, they run CPD specifically for PYs. It's run through Colonial First State, but their content is really targeted towards PYs, and the holes in the information that exist between, like, you're not taught about Centrelink at uni. You're not necessarily talked about age pension at uni, and they do cover in depth those areas and how to know when a client's going to meet the assets test for Centrelink and or not, and stuff like that. It's like a little uni lecture in an hour. That's been a big resource. Another one I've been using a lot recently has been the Kaplan on Track to get the CPD. I find that really works well with me because it reminds me a lot of, a Moodle course. Where you sit down, you read the subject, and then you do the exam at the end and walk away with your points type thing.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about Ensemble, and Kaplan as well as an educational resource.
This is my first experience with Kaplan because I used CPU. So yeah, I'd heard about Kaplan, but I hadn't had much to do with it. But yeah, now I've gotten used to how their little modules are run. I quite like it.
Yeah, that's good to know. How did you? Oh yeah, I guess you're still in your PY at the moment, but how have you gone about structuring those 100 hours of structured education and training?
I've actually been caught out a little because I thought I had till Christmas to finish my PY, but I'm actually pumping through the hours a bit faster than I expected. I only work part-time, 28 hours a week. So yeah, I'm actually realizing I'm going to be potentially finished by October, and I still have 40 CPD points to get.
Right.
So I've been a little caught out by that, but my licensee requires their ARs to get 40 CPD per year. So I was using that as a base rate of basically keeping up with the big kids. And I got my 40 last year, and I was really proud of that. And then it rolled over and realized that, yeah, I need to get 40 before I finish. And okay, challenge accepted. Yeah, I use Kaplan a lot. Our licensee, I'm with Interprac, they give regular webinars and send out links and stuff for that. And when it interests me, I grab one of those. Yeah, just keep an eye on the emails for CPD events that interest me. Obviously, you have the freedom within the PY where your CPD doesn't have Whereas for legislative requirements, you're required to cover off certain areas, X, Y, and Z, to meet your yearly CPD. You're not quite as regimented within your PY. Obviously, they want you to cover off as much as possible, but you are not required to get 9 points in tax and 5 points in this and 5 points in that sort of thing. So that makes it a little bit easier, but yeah, I feel like I'm rambling now.
No, that's been great. Yeah, I think it's yeah, really good way of putting it around how to structure it, and particularly your experience as well.
Matt, so we had a question previously about someone who was doing their masters, and they asked if those hours can be counted towards those 100 hours. So I think that's really important, that a lot of people don't realize that if you start your PY before like graduating, you can count your formal education as within those 100 hours. So I think that's good for people to know as well.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Leah. Yeah, really good point. Leah, I guess, yeah, from your experience, what's probably the best thing, or yeah, the most exciting thing that you're looking about when starting your PY?
I guess just being able to actually, put what I've learned and what I do at work into to make it count for something, and be able to use that to do my PY, like put my knowledge into practice, I guess, to put it simply. So, it's all good, fun, dandy, learning things and working in a job, but when it's actually counting towards, I guess, a career milestone, that's really exciting.
No, definitely. Jennifer, have there been any pain points, I guess, besides the 40 hours of CPD to your professional year?
Managing time. There's always so much to do, and just trying to fit it all in. Like, obviously you need to value your time, but I love this job. I'd pull myself out until there's nothing left. And you just got to set personal boundaries and stick to them. And it's hard.
In saying that, do you find that it is hard sometimes, because you are dealing with people's quite personal financial lives? Do you find that it is hard sometimes to set those boundaries between, I guess, your personal life and that work life as well?
Yes and no. Like, obviously it depends. Like, at the end of financial year, there was a lot at stake, and you worry about it, and you put in the extra work to make sure that they're not put at financial detriment, which is obviously a really key word that no one wants to hear. Very useful for when you're on the phone to providers that don't want to do what you need them to either. But yeah, I feel the weight of compliance really heavily, that you don't want to screw up and cost someone money. Like, that can come back and bite really bad, as like from a professional perspective and morally, ethically. Like, you don't want to wear that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really great way of putting it. Yeah, having those ethical and moral boundaries about you as well. I'm just conscious of the time. Does anyone in the audience have any questions for, I guess, Jennifer, Leah, or myself today as well? Feel free to message it in the chat box or pop your hand up, and I'll let you turn the mic on.
Just while we're waiting, I thought it would be good to mention about, my experience with networking and how important networking can be, particularly if you're looking for a job, or even if you've got a job and just want to gain experience or whatever. It can be really good to use networking as a tool to get further and be able to figure out exactly what you want from yourself and what you want from your employer and the PY and even moving forward.
Do you mind covering that off, Leah?
Sorry, what do you
In
mean?
terms of, do you mind elaborating a little bit on, I guess, what networking opportunities that you've had and been able to utilize that?
Yeah, so I guess, well, as I mentioned before, through uni, just talking to guest lecturers who work within the industry, but also through FAAA events. So like recently there was the roadshow. Also Congress was really great, but there's also a lot of smaller events that happen, or there's events that run through the university. There's a lot of things going on all the time that a lot of people don't know about. So connecting with people on LinkedIn that have positions where they are exposed to those sorts of things. If anyone's not connected with the FAAA students' social media pages, that's a really good starting point because a lot of those events get shared there. But yeah, just talk to people and reach out. Even on LinkedIn, like there's a few of my connections that I've never met in person, but I've connected with because I've liked what they've posted and then have sent a message to ask them about a certain experience of theirs that they post about that I was interested in. And majority of the time they're more than happy to tell you about it or have a conversation.
That personal connection means so much when it comes to finding employment too.
Mm.
Like just actually having that conversation of, hi, I exist. This is something about me. Tell me about you. Might be enough to make someone look twice at you when you say, hey, can I have a job?
That's definitely a good point. Yeah, because it's good to know people and let them know you.
Yeah. And even if it's just, reaching out to someone on LinkedIn and asking for, to catch up for a coffee or something like that, because I think, yeah, if you're willing to invest in them, then, they're more willing to invest in you as well. That makes sense.
The other thing is I started out remote.
Hmm.
So broaden the horizons if you would, consider maybe working remote.
How have you found that? How have you found that experience working remotely, Jennifer?
That's where the university model came in handy because uni was all remote. So we just transposed that into doing the PY.
Yeah.
I'm actually not remote anymore. I ended up moving to Albury. I'm now face to face, which has been a whole other transition of dynamic. But I don't regret starting out remote.
Hmm.
There's a whole different skill set there. And you need to learn how to talk to people on Zoom.
Yeah.
Which is it's different. There's visual cues that get missed because of the video, and you can't see the whole person. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. We might wrap it up there, I think, unless, just wanted to, just check if anyone else has any more questions, as well.
What is the current pay range for PY candidates? It's in the chat.
That is a good question, Abhishek. I'll have to get back to you on that one. I know there's a few different recruitment companies and recruiters who put out different pay grades and I guess pay ranges too. So I'll note that down, but yeah, that'd be good to share as well. Alrighty. So just wanted to thank Jennifer again and Leah for joining us today for webinar 1 of the FAAA Students Navigating Your Professional Year webinar. Hopefully you've got something out of today, whether it is about, helping I guess, the structure of the professional year, you know, some further information on quarters 1 and 2, and also just some experience and insight from Jennifer and Leah as well. Yeah, so thank you very much to everyone who has joined us, and yeah, have a lovely afternoon. Thank you. Just a reminder as well that this webinar will be recorded too and shared too. Thank you.